All right, I am here with a friend of mine, Miss Renee Robyn. She is a photographer, artist, just sort of all-around creative force on the internet and off the internet, trade shows, workshops, all this kind of stuff. She's one of those people, one of those photographers that's doing it. You know, a lot of photographers talk about it. Renee Robyn is actually doing it. And if you look at some of her work, as we hopefully we will a little bit later, and we'll, you know, of course, embed some in the page on This Week in Photo, she is, Renee, I got to tell you, you're one of the most talented artists that and I'm abstracting Photoshop out of it. So you're just a talented artist that happens to use Photoshop as a paintbrush. So welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. That's extremely flattering to hear. Thank you.
It's true. I mean, have you seen your work? Come on. Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit.
We're all our own worst critics.
Yeah, totally. So let's talk about that. So your work in general, this, you know, some of it's dark, and some of it's a little gothic. Some of it, most of it that I've seen is really sexy and young and hip and just like honest. What drives you to create this kind of stuff? What's the force that's like gets you out of bed in the morning and you're like, okay, I got to go make this piece of art right now?
To be honest, it's kind of a little bit difficult to explain. I've tried explaining it before, but it's like being plugged into like a creative field. And this is going to sound like really hippie stuff, and not that there's anything wrong with hippies, but it's honestly like this thing. There's like this pressure that's pushing from the back of me, and it's pushing through my chest, and I can't help. It's like this compulsion that like there's something wrong. I'm sick in the brain or something.
Wow.
And it just like, it just pushes me, and I can't stop it. You know, I can't help but not get the things that are inside my head and buzzing around me. And, you know, I can't help but get them out and put them out onto paper or into Photoshop. I mean, when I started drawing, right? And that's how it was when I would sketch. You know, I would have something in my head, and it didn't matter what was around me. If it was like a piece of paper, a napkin, you know, my shoes, my arm. I used to draw on my skin all the time because I didn't have any paper available. So my mom was always worried that I was going to get some kind of poisoning from the ink because my arms would just be covered because it was like the closest thing that I had.
Wow, that's amazing. So you're like you're like the tormented artist that has all this art inside of her that's busting to get out, and you just have to, you can't stop it. It makes me think of like these movies with these brilliant people that are like writing formulas on the wall, or what was it? Do you remember, you may be too young to remember this, but you remember Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the Steven Spielberg movie? So Richard Dreyfuss in the movie, after he's like irradiated or something by the aliens, gets this vision in his head that he cannot help to see. So he builds this mountain of potatoes in the living room to represent the mountain and all that. And his family's like, what the heck are you doing? You know, and that's what you make me think of, like having this art in you that you just have to get out of your body some way. Does it kind of feel like that? That it's just like this drive that you have no idea why, but you know you have to do it?
I don't know if it would be, I mean, like we're blaming this one on the aliens now, I guess. I'm taking the reference here.
An unseen force. How about that?
We're going to have like a screen flash ancient aliens and be like, aliens.
Yes, totally.
But no, I don't think it's necessarily something that's in my body, because I don't really know if creativity comes from, you know, inside the body, maybe to a certain extent, but it feels like plugging into something. You know, it's like when, say you have a straw, right? And you put a straw into a glass or something like that. This is like putting a straw into a river, and you're able to get out just like a tiny, 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 tiny infinitesimal percentage of it. You know, and it's like, for whatever reason, it's permanently plugged into my back. Wow. And it's always trickling in, you know, and it's, I don't really know how to describe it other than that. You know, when I start editing images, you know, it just feels like there's no consciousness, right? You just kind of create. It just kind of flows in from the top of your head down through your chest and out your fingers, right? I mean, like anybody who's doing something that they really, really love, I think can attest to that, right? Or whether you're spending time with people that you really love, you can feel it in your chest, right? You can feel it all around you. and time kind of ceases to exist. And that's kind of what it's like. I mean, that's why a lot of times you'll see me online and I'm ranting at myself, giving myself shit because I've been awake for 3 days working on some images, right? But it's because you can't stop, right? So probably I should be medicated.
That's going to be the quote of this interview. I think I should probably be medicated. So, I mean, that's a true test of this, right? I mean, the incorrect perception of time when you're doing something that you love doing means you like doing that thing, right? Whether it's hanging out with somebody and the time just flies by, or you're editing, or, you know, like my nephews are always talking about, they're playing video games all the time, and, you know, 5 hours go by and it feels like they just sat down. You know, it's the same kind of feel, right? Yeah,
that's exactly it. You know, when they say like, oh, I'll just be 10 more minutes, and like 4 hours later go by and you're like, oh, damn it. I guess I missed that.
Yeah, and the opposite of that is, you know, everything in the universe has a check and balance, right? So the opposite of that is when you're doing something that you hate doing, time slows down. So,
oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it also ceases to exist because it doesn't fucking move.
Yeah, it's like I looked at the clock 20 minutes ago and it's still in the same spot. What's going on here?
Yeah, exactly. You're just like, like, you know, grade 7 social studies. You're like,
Yeah, I remember. Well, kind of. I kind of remember. Let's talk about process a little bit. So you're once you have the straws in your back and you kind of have an idea of the direction that you want this particular piece to go in, what now? Do you sketch it out? Do you get in Photoshop and start playing around with shapes? Do you go take pictures and then work from there? What's the next step after the vision has presented itself?
That's been as unique as every single photo. Some of them I'll previs sketch out, like if I'm somewhere really inconvenient, which is usually when creativity hits. It's like, hey, you're in the doctor's office. So, you know, or like in an airport or something like that. I always have a notebook on me, like a sketchbook, even if it's like really tiny, so I don't have to draw on my arms anymore.
Yeah, good, nice.
But no, I will sometimes sketch things out. Other times I'll write down like the words or something like that. If there's like a feeling or an emotion. For example, the girl jumping off the bridge with like little tiny wings, right? That one hit me. Like I've been wanting to make an image like that for like a year, 2, 3 years, right? It had been always something there, but it hadn't been really formulated, right? It was like I want to create an image that feels kind of like this, and maybe something like this. You know, it's really, really vague, right? And it took quite a lot of time before it actually came together to figure out how to engineer the shot to shoot something like that, and then to composite it and have the skills to do it. And it finally hit me when I was flying to Halifax a few weeks ago. I was literally on a midnight flight, a red-eye flight. So I was flying from Vancouver to Halifax. I'd been awake for like a day and a half at that point. I was sleeping on the airplane happily, and then the creative genie came along and was like, pow, woke me up, and I had to, I was absolutely inundated with all the words that I wanted this image to feel, right? It was, and I don't really draw a lot from personal experience for my own artwork. Lots of people do. But this one was very much so like a personal image. And so it was, you know, the inspiration of what it was like to quit something that's very, very secure and very safe, and to basically just like go for it, right? And I was finally able to articulate that emotion and that feeling and wrap it into an image that I'd had kind of sitting around in the back of my head for a while. And so I wrote down like words and sensations and colors, and, you know, even the music that I wanted to listen to while I was editing it, because I'm really, really influenced by sound. I'm a little bit of an audiophile. And so it just kind of, you know, all came together. And
then how do you get to the point of skill where you are now? I mean, are you self-taught? Did you just like learn this as you have an idea? Okay, I need to figure out how to put wings on this particular person, and then you just figure it out, and now you have it in your toolbox, or was it more classical?
Oh, no, there was no training. I do have friends that know a lot more in Photoshop than I do. I have friends that are game designers and things like that. And every now and then I'll just kind of pick up just like a little gem of information here and there. But as for formal training, there isn't any. Photoshop is a program. It's not a rabbit honey badger. You can open it up and you can start pushing buttons and see what happens. right? And like I tell a lot of people that like I fail my way to success all the time, because what happened when I got Photoshop, I opened it and I was like, oh my God, there's a lot of buttons. What do I do? Let's go file new. All right, so that's a white box. What the hell do I do with this white box? Okay, well, that looks like it's a paintbrush. Let's draw a little bit. Hey, there's a filter part, you know? And so like I would do a lot of stuff, and a lot of things would look terrible and awful and whatever else. But after enough hours of doing it, you go, hey, that thing that didn't work for this idea, or at least that when I created this and it looked like absolutely terrible, I can apply what I did there to this image because it might work.
Right.
And so it was just trial and error and like hours of it. Like I think in some ways, being good at Photoshop isn't like a skill that is special. It's just a program.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
it's like Word, right?
Being able to sit down and paint and sculpt like Michelangelo, that's an artistic skill, right? But Photoshop is a program, right? It has buttons and it does what the user tells it to. So it's just doing it. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's the takeaway. I mean, a lot of people are intimidated by Photoshop because it's a gigantic program, and that it's an industry standard, so people in Hollywood are using it and people down the street are using it. But like you said, you can choose to expose or not expose as much of it as you want to. And one of the things I take away from what you're saying which is what I tell people all the time, is to work backwards, right? So once you have something in your head, like that idea genie came and hit you over the head in the plane, then you have to figure out, the best way to learn this stuff is to figure out how to execute on something, not go through, in my opinion, go through a tutorial and do these esoteric kind of nonsensical exercises to do something. You have to do something on something that you're passionate about and figure it out. And then those brain cells start connecting. You're like, oh, okay, that's how you make a drop shadow. Oh, that's how you do this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, like tutorials are awesome and workshops are awesome, but a lot of people, what they do with them is they say, oh, well, this is the way to do this, right? And then they follow it. And this happens a lot in my workshops, and they're like, oh, well, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. But what they're doing is they're not making a process their own, right? They're not saying, hey, for what I'm doing, instead of saying step 1, step 2, step 3, step 1, step 3, and step 8 are things that are going to really help what I'm doing to make my artwork better, right? So that people, they just like copy and try to make something that isn't theirs, right? And that's why a lot of times when people say, well, I'm doing the exact same things you are, how come my photo doesn't look the same, right? Well, because the way that you create images isn't the same as the way I create images. The steps can be the same in Photoshop, but it's not honest to yourself. It's not honest to the artwork, right? Yeah. So when you start implementing and taking, okay, well, if I take this blending mode and I do this here, but if I apply this to the way that I see images, then you have something unique.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot. Here's a quote. I forget who said this, but it goes, "Good artists create, great artists copy." What do you think about that quote?
I think the difference there is a great artist copies from lots and lots and lots of different people, right? So they say like, hey, look at all this stuff that's going on in the universe. They're very open to what's going on. They're very in tune. They're very aware of, skills, of talents and things like that. And they say, hey, that's really nice. I'm going to take that little piece of information from here. I'm going to take that little piece of information from here. You're not copying from one source. You're making the entire universe your source of inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like synthesizing different ideas into something that's your own, or like digital alchemy, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, I'm always a fan. I've always been a fan of remixed music, and now I remix pixels.
I love it. See, perfect. Remix pixels. I love it. So before we continue, I have a question for you. So you mentioned something earlier about a rabid honey badger. What is a
rabid? Not rabbit. Rabid.
Rabid honey badger. What is a rabid honey badger? What is that?
Honey badgers don't give a shit. Have you ever seen that?
I think those creatures might stay north of the border. I don't know.
Whatever. I can't believe the man of YouTube has not heard of the honey badger. If you haven't heard of the honey badger, Go Google search the honey badger, and honey badger don't give a shit.
All right, so whoever's listening to this, please comment on this video and let me know if you've heard of a rabid honey badger, because...
Well, it's not technically rabid, but it's just a honey badger. I say that it's rabid because a honey badger, it's this video that's on YouTube, and it's about like how badass the honey badger is, right? And he's like killing stuff that kills other things like cobras, and he gets like bit by a cobra and dies, but then comes back to life, and it's all like real footage. But there's this dude narrating it, and it's just freaking amazing. So anyways, the comment, rabid honey badgers, because honey badgers are so badass, and then you mix in rabid, they're even more. Anyways.
All right, I'm gonna have to look that up right after this.
I can't believe you haven't heard of the honey badger.
I can't say that I have.
Whoever hasn't seen this, you're missing out on important cultural information.
Clearly, I've been in a closet here. Let's talk about gear a little bit and workflow. So self-taught on compositing and Photoshop, and now you're teaching workshops. So clearly you understand it better than most people. But as far as
I understand better than most people. I just I'm willing to share the stuff that I know.
That's cool. I mean, but looking at your work speaks for itself, though. So, that's the ultimate resume is looking at the work. People can say all day long, hey, I'm a great Photoshop person. I've been trained at blah, 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 and I know all this stuff. But the work will tell you how good they are, right? So when you're looking at your stuff, so let's just take me through quickly so we talked about the inspiration, but let's talk about execution a little bit. So the gear that you're shooting with, are you shooting with medium format, full frame DSLR, micro four thirds, mirrorless? And then once you get the images, where do they go? Do you dump them in the Lightroom, Bridge? How does that work?
All right, iPhone. Okay, I'm totally lying.
I'm an iPhone artist only.
Actually, I'm getting super into that Nextures app that you can get on your phone.
Nextures? I don't know. See, more. See, you and I need to hang out because you're giving me all this stuff. Nexture. Okay.
Nexture. It's like texture with an M.
Yeah.
It's an app you can get on your phone. It's like a couple bucks, and it's like really awesome Photoshop for your phone. It's really, really fun. I'm not much of a landscape photographer or an iPhone photographer. I take really dumb photos when I'm traveling. They're crappy composed, they're horribly lit and whatever else. But it's just kind of fun to play with like all these it creates layers and stuff like that. It's awesome. Oh. Anyways, yeah, I'm throwing that one out there because it's an app that I think is totally wicked for the iPhone. But in either case, as far as equipment goes, I have a Canon 5D Mark II. Mm-hmm. I have a 50mm lens. That's the one that I travel with the most. And then I also have a 135L lens that I'm on like permanently borrowing status from a friend. Nice. It's actually now that I think about it, the 50mm lens has also been on permanent borrowing status.
And you're like, now that I think about it, the 5D too is borrowed.
No, the 5Ds I bought. No, I just totally forgot about it. A friend of mine is a wedding photographer, and when I went full frame, I didn't have a lens because didn't have a lot of money then at all. And he was like, well, I have this 50mm lens. It's been sitting here for like 4 years, and I've never used it. You can use it. Don't break it. Don't sell it. And I was like, okay, sweet. So yeah, and apparently I probably should just go buy a 50mm. Yeah. But in either case, I have the 50-1.4, the 135L, which those two are like definitely my favorite and the ones I use the most. I have a 100mm macro after that, and then I have a 16-35 for when I shoot underwater and when I shoot background plate. Very cool. And of course, an underwater housing for all that stuff, right? Yeah. It helps. It helps a little. It's cool. And then are you organizing? Fine. Are you organizing your images in Lightroom or in Bridge, or how does that work? Okay, well this is where most of the technophobes this is where I get made a lot of fun of. I use Lightroom to shoot tethered, and that's it. Other than that, Lightroom collects a lot of dust. I don't use it for anything. Sometimes I will use Bridge. But to be honest, I'm even more archaic than that. Like I am admittedly a bit of a technophobe because I don't trust new technology because it blows things up. I actually don't update my iPhone either.
because you're afraid of the black helicopters? Is that why?
Oh no, the black helicopters.
They're invisible now, so it doesn't matter.
No. To be honest, every single time that I've updated my technology, particularly from Apple, it gets crappier and crashes more. I had an iPad that used to work perfectly, and I was like, oh, I suppose I should do that update thing, and I did it, and now it doesn't work. It's a brick. So when it comes to a lot of software, I'm a little bit of the same way. So I honestly shoot in JPEG, like small JPEG, and then my RAW files. And what I do is I honestly just copy paste it into a folder on my computer, just on the hard drive. I go in through like File Explorer. The other reason for that is because I have Photoshop set up to take up so much processing power on my computer that there isn't really much left to run anything else, and I don't really want to have Lightroom or Bridge open. I've used Mini Bridge before and things like that, but generally I have it all memorized in my head where everything is, and I keep everything organized by like completed clients and then incompleted clients and then workshop shoots, and then all my stock files and footage and everything like that is all kept in the hard drive as well, and I just have it memorized where everything is. So.
Wow, that's cool. That's the first time I've heard that. I mean, I've heard people, because if you're organizing your images in your own hierarchy using the file system on the computer, that's perfectly fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But with Lightroom and on the Mac Aperture and Bridge, you can point it at that hierarchy, and it'll just give you a better interface of it, essentially, and show you all the previews and all that. There's
lots of really, really good things about those programs, especially like keywording. Keywording is really, really nice.
Yeah.
And that's something, of course, that my system doesn't allow for. I can keyword in my head. My computer's like, what?
Yeah.
But, it's just kind of how I've done it because I travel so much and because I'm acutely aware that my equipment can fail at any time. And it has failed before, and I've had to use systems that are not my own. If I don't have things straight in my head when technology inevitably fails me, I have to be able to find all that information. So I try to not to become too dependent on the program.
Now, Renee, when you're again just sort of executing on one of these ideas, how are you assembling the assets? Do you get the idea in your head, you sketch it out somehow, and you're like, okay, I need to go get some feathers. I need this particular model, maybe 2 of them. I need this kind of background. I need these things, and then you go shoot them and then assemble them? Or is it more as you're building it, you're like, okay, this would look great if I had some clouds back there. Let me go shoot some clouds. How does the process work?
Okay, so how a lot of that works is the creative part of it comes together, and I say, okay, well, I have this idea, right? So let's say, for example, I'll say, okay, I want to shoot a dude in armor, and I start very vague like that. I have to apologize, I'm still a little bit sick.
That's okay.
So, I start with an idea. So I want to shoot a guy in armor, and I go, okay, well, let's find people who have armor, and I go, okay, well, I'm in the city, and there's this guy who's got this really, really awesome plate armor. And then I go, okay, well, how do I want this to light, right? How do I want this to feel? So I think about the lighting usually next before I even say, oh, this is specifically what the costume is going to look like. I don't worry about the costume quite as much because I try to find people who have access to or who have a lot of pride in their own skills, right? Like, I'm not a costume designer. I know that. I don't have a great eye for aesthetics that way, right? For style and all that kind of stuff. I mean, like, I wear all black, for Christ's sake. I don't blend very well, right? So I mean, that's it. So I try to find people who have skills that can make up for what I don't have, right? And so in this case here, I'm like, okay, I need an armor. So I find a guy who makes armor because he's got a very, very good eye for that kind of, how to make it look realistic, because I'm not, so well versed in this. I can't install a bunch of armor on somebody and say, oh, this is going to look historically accurate, because I don't know, right? So I find people who can bring more to the table than I can in areas that I don't know enough about, right? And so, okay, so now we have the dude with armor, we have the lighting figured out, and then with the previous sketch art, what that does is it's going to say, okay, am I going to have foreground elements? Am I going to have background elements? What am I kind of feeling like what they're going to be? and I draw them all down and I write them all out, and then they're either shot or I find friends online who may have what I'm looking for, and then bring it all together. And then in the post-production part is the part where I just kind of sit down and I take all these pieces and then we just kind of like mash them all together until something works out.
That's awesome. And then days go by and you're like one of the things I hear from a lot of artists is knowing when you're done. Like knowing when, okay, I'm done pushing these pixels around, I'm done remixing, now it's ready for the world. How do you know? How do you know when it's done and it's ready to show?
I used to wish that I wasn't the kind of artist that was like, oh, it feels like it's done. But I've turned into one. I run by gut feeling, right? Because art is a feeling, art is an emotion, right? So you look at something and you get a sensation when you're looking at it. You're either like repulsed, or you go, wow, that's really, really awesome, or you go, oh my God, I'm so inspired, or that's fearful, or something like that, right? When I look at an image and I sit there and I go, okay, I'm either done as much as I can do right now, right? And you just that creative flow stops, it cuts off, it dries up. Yep. For like 10 minutes.
10 minutes gone.
Stops, right? And I that feeling stops. And I look at it and I go, okay, you know what, maybe this is done. And I wrap it.
Wow. Okay, so it's gut feel. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. So, of course, I follow you online, and I remember I think it was a thread or a response or something a while back where it was regarding filters or something, and you were, I don't know if you were railing against the use of filters, but you were at least defending that you did not use filters in your work. Tell me where that comes from. Are you anti-filter or pro-filter?
Okay, well, there's two sides to that one. The first side is, I'm not anti-filter for other people. I don't like using filters for myself.
Okay.
I find that filters mean that things wind up looking the same a lot, and I want every single image to look as unique as I can. So the only plugin that I use, and I've used since almost day one, and I've loved since day one, is NIK software. NIK software. It comes through Google. Yep. I've used that ever since I found out about it, like probably 3 years ago. There was another photographer in town who introduced me to it, and I was like, oh my God, this is the best ever. Because what it does is it introduced me to color palettes that I don't normally use, right? But I mean, other than that, it's really the only thing that I've used. I have tried a lot of different actions. I have tried a lot of different plugins and things like that, because I figure that there has to be something to them because lots of people are using them. But I find that this, for my process, for the most part, they don't add to my artwork. But I think when I get into doing so many layers and so much adjustment, and especially once you start getting into hand painting, right, like hand drawing and color and stuff like that, sometimes actions can be detrimental. But I mean, like, actions work beautifully for millions of people out there. So I mean, it's finding a process that works right for the individual artist. And for me, I just find that it's either hand painting, hand adjustments, or, you know, sometimes I'll jump into NIK software.
Love it. Love it. So Renee, I'm sitting here while you were talking, I pulled up your 500 pics page. So, which is, you know, again, just crazy. I'm intimidated. I don't even know if I should be talking to you right now. So let's I'm going to screen share this window, and hopefully you can just maybe talk us through like a couple of these and what the story was behind one. So I'm just going to, do you see anyone of these shots that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, just scroll up a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about the maid shot there. The one that's on the far right with the floating book.
This guy. Okay, Wishmaster?
Yeah, Wishmaster, yeah. Okay, so that was a self-portrait. We shot that one in Montreal. I don't do a lot of self-portraits really anymore unless I'm in a situation where I kind of have to. But so with this image, this was totally prevised out. It was totally drawn together. There's an armor designer in Montreal. It's called Fantasy Armor. I was down there, and we were doing a bunch of artwork together because this armor designer does beautiful, beautiful custom work. It's really, really nice. And so he contacted me, and he was like, hey, let's do something. Let's make a bunch of really, really cool photos for the sake of making really, really cool photos. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So one of the images that we were drawing together was he was interested in having me do a shot like with myself, and I was like, okay, you know.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't do a lot of that anymore, but so we said, well, how do we do this, right? And so we sat down and we said, okay, well, let's do something like a mage, because what we had done, and this is a series of artwork that I'm working on right now, is we did a whole bunch of characters. We have like paladins, we have like, you know, goblins and orcs and all this stuff. Is we have all these characters for a fantasy realm. What we didn't have was a mage. And so I was like, well, you know, back in the days when I was like probably less of a nerd than I am now, I used to play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. I will come out of it. I'm one of those geeks. And so a character I used to play was always like a tiefling war mage, and I was like, well, let's just do something like that. Why not? And so we said, okay, well, we had to go to the shop and find armor that fit me. I'm like 1,000 sizes smaller than the average person who makes armor for, and like I think I fit like a kid size armor.
That's awesome.
And so we drew this out, and we said, okay, so we have like a breastplate. You know, I bought this really, really beautiful jacket. I'm actually wearing it right now. While I was in Montreal, and so we said, okay, we have a wand. He also makes these really cool custom books, you know, and they're like leather and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. So let's try to do something like a floating book and a wand, you know, and we'll just kind of like have this like cosmic shit going on around the image. And we're like, all right, excellent. So then it was figuring out the lighting. So we have the concept. Now we have to figure out where our light source is coming from. And I said, well, if we're gonna have the book floating in left hand, you know, we need a light source coming from there. So that's where we put our main light coming from, right? Because that was going to exude a lot more light. And then we said, okay, well, we're going to have a wand. Well, I'm probably going to have some light coming off the wand, otherwise the wand is going to disappear. So we put a separation light there. And then we also just created a little bit of fill light, because when I shoot, I shoot to have a lot of options, because it's a lot easier to add shadows than take away shadows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pardon me. So once we got to shooting this, it was, okay, this is our storyboard. We need the floating book. So we tried a few different things. Like we tried throwing the book a little bit, you know, and like just seeing to catch it in the air, and it wasn't really working. So I wound up like inside the spine of the book. I just like shoved my fingers into it because I needed the back of the book to be totally clear. And when you hold it, of course your fingers are going to be on it. So I was trying to find ways to get that. So I just like crammed my fingers up the back of this book. And just kind of, you know, held it there and then took a couple shots. So we had the camera on the tripod, we locked in the focus, and basically we started just like shooting all the pieces together and in a storyboard way. So it was like the book first. There were a few other elements that we shot that I wound up not using in post-production, but then it was, okay, so now we need the pose to work, right? Well, I have a remote in one hand, so you have to shoot the left hand first, holding the book, right? And so the trigger is in the right hand. And then we switched that, and I put the book away, and then I have the wand in my left hand and the trigger in the right hand. And then we had to shoot the right shoulders. We had to shoot the hair going the right way. So we would put my hands down, and then the designer, he was the one who's helping me shoot it, is we would like fan my hair to get the hair going everywhere, right? And so we did a bunch of shots of the hair. And so then when we bring it all together into post-production, it's like, okay, so here's the facial expression that I like. Here's the shot of the left hand that I really like. Here's the shot of the book I like. Here's the right hand that looks really good. Here's the angle on the shoulders that looks very, very nice. And then you start putting all these pieces together before you even get to putting the background image in and like all the textures and the color and the lighting. And then from there, it's like lots of dodge of burning. We start bringing in the color and start really telling the story with like, you know, basically the magic of the shot, you know, bringing the textures to life. Matching color temperatures, making everything look kind of the way it's supposed to. So this image here, it looks a lot more simple than it actually was to create, and I don't normally put that much work into building a singular pose because I like to be able to get it right in one shot with the pose, but sometimes it's not always possible, especially when you're talking self-portraits.
Yeah.
So it was really, really fun to make an image like this. So yeah, and I never play with cool and warm tones in one image. That's just really weird for me.
That's crazy. Okay, so I'm gonna go back in here. I'm gonna pick another one that I want you to describe. So all right. Let's go back. I mean, all these are just crazy. I mean, definitely a distinctive sort of ethereal dream kind of look to these images. But looking at this one, Don't Forget Me.
Yeah.
Okay, what's this about here?
Okay, so this is the shot that I did with Kelly in Halifax, right? And so when we were getting the jump shot for the initial one with the little wings, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of people who were telling me, oh, well, you know, the wings are kind of like, you know, they look a little bit CG. And I was like, well, yeah, they do. You know, admittedly, my skill in Photoshop isn't quite good enough to make the wings look as realistic as I would like. But I said, but without the wings, it looks like a suicide shot.
Mm-hmm.
And so people were like, I don't know, I still would like to see it without the wings. And so I said, okay, well, you know, I have another shot of a city, like a cityscape from a high point of view. Ben Van Long had sent me 3 images to work with. And I was like, you know, this one here could actually work. And I had shot a bunch of different poses of Kelly jumping in a variety of ways. And I think we kind of messed up her ankle. I felt a little bad. But this pose here, I had really, really liked. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was beautiful. And I wanted to be able to do something with it. So I was like, okay, well, you know, let's create an image and see if people still get the suicide vibe from it, right? Or if they feel that it's really hopeful and freeing. Like, what's the individual experience for the image?
Mm-hmm.
So when I put this together in post-production, to me, when I look at it, it's a very a combination of very freeing and very, very sad image. And the responses to the image have been exactly that. Some people are like, oh, is this photo about like suicide? What the hell's wrong with you? And then other people are like, oh my God, that's such a beautiful image because it feels so free to them. So the individual experience for this one is a little bit more emotional, attaching than the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, you know, I had a pose that I really, really loved. I had a background that I really liked, and a little bit of a social experiment.
Now, when you create these, what's the ultimate destination for these pieces? I mean, clearly, I see them online, 500 pics, and other social networks. But are you creating these for yourself to print? Are they for clients? Are they just to get these ideas out of your soul? I mean, where do they come from, or where do they go? Actually,
first off, most of my client work doesn't see the internet, so I would say like 75% of the artwork that I create doesn't go on my Facebook page. That's why there's like stages on the internet where like all I post is like cat memes and like dumb videos and crap like that, because all the stuff that I'm working on I can't post, right? Yeah. So you know, whether I'm tied into an NDA agreement, if I've got a commercial client that paid me to say that I didn't make that image, or if it's just you know, men or women or couples or something like that that are not comfortable with their photos being online. Yeah. You know, whatever the reason is. So a lot of the stuff that goes online is personal work or client work that have said that they're cool with it. But more than anything, like I do have to remind myself very often that I have to create artwork because I love to create artwork. Yeah. You know, if I got into this to make money, well, I'm in this for the wrong business. I'm in this for the wrong reason. Right. You know, not that I'm not starving in a ditch or anything like that, but you know, I'm happiest when I sit down and I create artwork because I love to create beautiful images. And I do try to hold on to that as much as I can. And let me say, I do sell prints of artwork. I mean, I have a SmugMug page, ReneeRobynPhoto.smugmug.com, and I sell prints through there, the ones that I'm allowed to print and sell. And I am also working on an art book. Oh, cool. That's the first public announcement of that, actually.
Oh, a TWiP exclusive. Well, thank you very much.
There you go. Just for you.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, no, I am working on an art book, and it's hopefully will come out in the next year or so. It's a massive undertaking to make what I've got in mind, anyways. So.
This crazy. This is crazy. That's good. So what's next for Renee Robyn? I mean, what does the future hold, and more importantly, what does success look like for you? I mean, when can you sit back and say, okay, I'm done. I did everything I needed to do, and I'm good. Or is there a time that looks like that?
This is a career in the arts, man. You're never done.
Exactly.
You can never know everything. You can never. I don't think it's possible to stop being an artist for most people. There was a time a few few months ago where I was really, really stuck in a dilemma, and I was very, very upset, and I didn't really know what to do. I was feeling extremely lost. I didn't have a direction, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, I'm thinking that I might stop shooting. I might stop creating art and just go out, get a job, and have that consistency, have that consistent paycheck, have that security and stuff like that. And I said, because I can't do both. I have to either have a job or I have to create artwork, because I'm like OCD. When I create art, I can't, it consumes everything about me. And he gave me some of the best advice, and I quote him very often. He said, if you quit art, it'll be the worst 15 minutes of your life.
That's awesome. See, that's a good quote. That needs to be on a t-shirt or something.
It is so true, right? And I tell a lot of other people that too. Like, if you're really an artist, it's you can't stop it. So I don't really know if that, saying that I've done everything or anything like that is even possible. Because there's so many possibilities. Like, we live in a world of ultimate possibilities. We have access and capabilities to do just about anything that we can imagine, right? I mean, I came from, my entire life I've been exceptionally poor up until the last couple of years, right? And that's because I've worked my freaking ass off. Yeah. But I mean, a lot of people, they message me and they're like, oh, well, I wish I had the ability to travel around the world and do stuff, and oh, you're so lucky. And I think people saying luck just cheapens the work, right? And it's so true, because I was just as disadvantaged and just as advantaged as most people. I mean, I started my professional photography career when I couldn't walk, right? Because I was involved in a motorcycle accident, right?
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, that's how I started shooting professionally, actually. I ride a motorcycle, and luck ran out one day, or actually I've learned to look at it that I got lucky that day, because I was lucky enough to get run over by a truck. I lost the ability to walk, but it forced me to shoot photography full time, and that's when I found how much I love doing this. Wow. Right, and it's thrown me onto this completely crazy road, path of life that I never ever would have expected. I mean, 5 years ago it was a joke that I'd never be a professional photographer because my photos were so bad. They were absolutely awful, right? Yeah. But to have people say that there's an end line in having a creative arts career, I think is craziness. Yeah. I think that there's so much that's out there that you can do. For me, success is being able to love what I do every single day. And admittedly, I don't love what I do every single day. Admittedly, some days I absolutely hate my life because, whatever reason, some troll's being a jackass online or something like that, or I'm having problems getting images out, or my computer died, or my equipment failed, or my luggage got lost, or whatever. Right? There's lots of things, or when the inevitable life things happen, when people die, right? It's life. Life happens to all of us, right? And so because we have such an access to the internet, because we have such access to travel, travel's never been more affordable than it is now. Is it still expensive? Yes. But can you work your ass off, save every penny that you have for a year, and catch a plane ticket to Thailand and live there for $3 a month? Yes. 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 Right? You can. There's no more excuses why you can't do something other than lethargy. There's only reasons why you can, and that's where people really have to rewire their head. Right? You have to stop thinking of the reasons why you can't do something and make the most of what you can with what you've got. And I also look at that way. You're right. People say, oh, I wish I looked like you, or oh, I wish I looked like you. Well, I don't know a human being that doesn't have body issues. Right? I don't know somebody who doesn't have something about themselves that they would go, that'd be cool to change that a little bit. Right. Right. But somebody is looking at you and seeing the same thing. Right? Or maybe you don't feel that that's the way that it is, but make the most of what you've got. Don't stop wishing that you're in different situations. Stop wishing you're in different scenarios. Create your life. Take control of it, right? Own that shit, because nobody else is going to live it for you. And that's what I think is really awesome about having a creative arts career and being creative. I've never seen in my entire life so many creative people. Every person I know is creative. Doesn't mean they're a photographer. But they're like, oh, I overhauled my bike engine and I built this random invention on my bike that's improved efficiency on my engine or something like that, right? Like people are creative in so many ways now, and that is the most awesome thing. for like, you know, this planet at this point in time, because if you don't have a creative culture, that means that people are trying to survive, right? People are just trying to watch their kids grow up safely. They're trying to just feed themselves, right? When we have a culture that we do right now, which is this massive arts culture, I mean, like, we have new movies popping out every 3 hours online, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome and it's so cool, right? Yeah. So having that like availability and that safety for things, for like the entire world to start being creative is so inspiring. So yeah, I don't think that there is an end to having an art career. You know, I might just change the medium.
It's kind of like we're in this this digital pixel data based renaissance again, where everyone's just an explosion of everyone creating everything and sharing it with everyone, but it's global now, right?
Yeah, and it's awesome. I mean, like, you can learn anything. I mean, like, the universities are now opening up their programs for free online. They're like, hey, here you go. You want an education? Learn it. You know, like, you can go to Flern and spend $30 and learn something that 5 years ago, 2 years ago, didn't exist, right? Because there's a guy who's out there and he's like, hey, you know, I'm stupidly creative and part genius and a little bit mad. And he's like, I've made all these videos. Here you go. Have fun, right? And, like, the school of YouTube is full of that. I mean, I wanted to learn how to change, what the hell was it? It was something on my motorcycle engine. I was trying to figure out how to change. I think it was like doing the needles on my carbs or something like that, my carburetors. And I was like, how the hell do I do this? And I just like loaded up Google, and like there were like a dozen videos of like people who were like, hey, this is how you use, you know, this is how you do the needles on your carbs. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. You know, I didn't have to go down and pay somebody. Did it take me a lot longer because I didn't pay somebody? Probably. Yeah. But, you know, like the access of information is everywhere. And so, like, ignorance now is just a choice, man.
That's right. That's right. Like you said before, lethargy, or, you know, that's a choice. And, you know, and you know, I think it reminds me of like when we had the whole desktop publishing revolution, and it was like, you know, the fear from traditional, quote, graphic designers was like, oh man, you know, these kids coming on with these desktop publishing programs and, you know, all these fonts and all this crap, they're going to create whatever they want and they're going to ruin the industry. But what it did was it just served to separate the people that had skill from the people that didn't. It gave the people at the top of the pyramid more tools to make even more amazing things, and then, you know, the natural sediment just sort of floated to the bottom, right?
Yeah, and it's like, it's now because like the access, I mean, like software, like Adobe Creative Cloud is like $10 a month, and you've got Photoshop. Like, really? $10? That's it? That's like a pack of smokes up here in Canada.
Yeah.
You know, you know, we're no longer separated by money. I mean, even medium format cameras are getting way more affordable, right? Yeah. Like, they're offering financing options and things like that. So, I mean, just like, we're not limited by money anymore. I mean, all of my equipment, every single piece of my equipment, I mean, I admitted earlier, like that 50mm lens is on extended borrow. The 135mm lens is on extended borrow. All my like my underwater housing, my bodies, everything, like, they're all used. Even the laptop that we're talking on is bought used, right? Yeah. Everything except for my laptop was under $1,000, right? Did I have to work my ass off and save for it? Yes. But I mean, it's not like buying a good DSLR camera now is you know, you have to have $5,000 saved up. If you want to be the early adopters, then of course, you know, if you've got the financial backing to do it, go for it. But I mean, I've seen people create absolutely freaking amazing stuff with a point and shoot camera.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
You could buy this for $150. I mean, you could like, you know, find one probably in a Goodwill store at this point.
Yeah. It's funny you were talking earlier about luck, and you know, people say that all the time about different things, like, oh, you're so lucky that you get this, or you're so lucky that this, you know, and for me, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because I see luck as the nexus or the point where hard work, skill, and opportunity kind of come together. Because without one of those things, it's going to go right by, right? So hard work, skill, and opportunity, when they come together, then you have quote unquote luck, right?
Well, luck on that, right? Because what all you're doing is you're creating when you work towards a consistent goal, right? Whatever that goal is, if you are constantly working towards that goal, you're creating situations and scenarios for those things to happen. So I don't even know if that's luck, because you're just allowing for those possibilities to happen. I mean, like if you're into the world of quantum physics at all, you know, that's really like, you know, and I quite enjoy quantum physics. I'm a bit of a nerd about it. You know, I don't know everything about it by any stretch. I spend too much time in Photoshop, but you know, the world of quantum physics really talks about having, you know, creating this world of possibilities and, you know, creating your life to open up other possibilities. So if you are constantly working towards a goal and you're saying, okay, for example, here's a good personal example. November 2012, I was like, you know what? Here's a random goal. I've never been to Europe. I've always been way too broke to go to Europe. I've never been able to afford it. I've read books. I've looked at pictures of Europe since I was 2 years old. I want to go there so bad it hurts, right? And so I said, you know what? This time next year, I'm going to be in Europe. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I am going to do everything I can in my power to create a possibility for this outcome to happen. So January came along, and there was like, hey, there was a possibility to go to Europe, right? My car died. Actually, it was December. My car died. All my money that I had saved up that I was going to go to Europe with went to buying a new car 10 days before I was supposed to fly.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I was like, shit, bad luck. Damn it. I was so mad. I was so mad. I was just like, I was so close to going to Europe, you know, and I could feel it so bad. I could taste it, right? And it was like, oh, here's your dream, and gone.
Yeah.
I was like, shit. So then June came along, and there was an opportunity to go to Europe in June. And the same thing happened. My lights died, and my laptop died. All the money that I had saved up.
The universe is conspiring to keep you out of Europe.
Exactly, right? And then, so from there, then I was introduced to a guy in Amsterdam, and he was like, hey, we're really interested in possibly having you come over. Let's do some classes. Let's hang out. Let's see Europe. And I was like, oh my God, yes. And sure enough, November, like 1 year, almost to the date, I wound up being in Europe. But it was because I was constantly trying to create opportunities for that outcome to happen. Yeah. Right. So I was looking at European artists. I was looking at, you know, the education system over there. I was looking at people, the movers and shakers that are happening over there, right? And starting to get in touch with them. And eventually, piece by piece by piece, these things happened. You know, it didn't happen exactly the way I wanted it to. Ideally, I would have been able to keep my car and go to Europe in January a year earlier. But, you know, it happened to work out just that fine. So
that's what they say. I mean, it's kind of like the whole idea of pre-visualization of goals, right? And I mean, what you were pre-visualizing was the trip to Europe, but you know, a lot of folks will, myself included, I have like a vision board of, this is what I want to be able to do. This is the house I want to live in. This is the car I want to be driving. This is what the yard looks like. And this is what the yacht looks like. And, you know, and this is what the vineyard in Champagne looks like that I'm going to be purchasing. You know, so it's like you have all these things in your head that are like really, really far out. And then when you come back to real time, your brain is sort of even subconsciously laying the bricks to get to that goal. Yeah. Whereas if you don't have that goal set, then you're laying the bricks randomly to get to random places, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I look at creating images the same way, right? I have these like crazy grandiose end goal things that are just kind of like fuzzing around in hyperspace. And, you know, I'm creating, you know, opportunities for these images to happen, right? Even if I don't have a very conscious direction that I want them to go, I have a general feeling. I'm not just kind of like spraying out there and hoping something lands. Like, I think the only luck I've ever had in my life was that I was unluckily lucky enough to get run over by that truck. Right. Because it put me down onto this path, right? But still, like, even that morning, I was creating options for that to happen. It was pouring rain. You know, the pavement was slippery and everything like that, and I was driving in rush hour traffic, and for what I had managed to avoid 5 accidents before finally one got me that morning. I don't know what it was. It was like the universe was like, nope, this is gonna hurt today. This is, you know,
the universe had 6 bullets in the gun, and it got you on that last shot, right?
Yeah, it it was like a movie at a Final Destination, man. Like my bike split out on me in one, like it was just like every single thing. And like literally one, like around the corner from where I was working, it was like I was going to turn right, and that's where the accident happened.
Oh.
You know, so but like I think in some ways there's some things that just seem to not be able to avoid. You know, anybody who's gone through anything in their life.
Trust me.
Yeah.
That's a different conversation. Let's talk about what's next for you. I know I'm sure we're encroaching on your time on this Memorial Day. It's Memorial Day here in the United States, by the way.
Today's my day off, so I'm doing nothing.
Oh, good. So what's next for you on like traveling, workshop wise, projects? What's coming up next for you?
Alrighty, so next, I'm actually leaving for Houston in 3 days. I love Texas. Oh my god, the barbecue, it's so good.
Yes, that's Texas.
Barbecue. Yeah. To anybody who's vegetarian and vegan, sorry, I like animals.
It's like I like to eat animals. They're delicious.
But no, I'm gonna go to Houston. I'm gonna go down there for about 7 days. I've got a bunch of friends down there. Kind of just gonna hang out and do some shit. After that, I'm gonna be out in Prince Edward Island. I'm doing some work with the PPOC out there, doing just a class with them.
Mm-hmm. Then Professional Photographers of Canada.
Yes, yeah, okay. Sorry. Professional Photographers of Canada, the PEI edition. Then I'm taking my motorcycle for a week through southern BC, and I am not taking any technology.
Not even a cell phone?
I will take a cell phone in case there's an accident, but
okay,
that's it.
Good.
That's it. I am unplugging for a week, and I'm so excited. Other than that, I will be in Europe again. It looks like we're going to be doing it for August and September. I'm hoping to go to Photokina because that's in Germany, and I've never been before.
That would be awesome.
I know. I don't know. I've never been there before. So if there's anybody who wants me to speak in Germany at Photokina, let me know.
Yeah, there you go. Contact Renee right now.
That'd be awesome. Other than that, there's Photo Plus in New York.
Yes.
As you mentioned, yeah.
Yes.
So that's going on. I'll be also speaking at PPOC in Edmonton. After that, and then there is going to be probably some stuff back in Europe again in January, February area, things like that. So I mean, I'm already booked all the way to April next year, but it's not all announced yet. So.
That is so cool. So busy. So that's, that your story. Thanks for sharing that, by the way, because the stories you describe it of not having found your direction / passion, and then boom, the scene of the motorcycle accident, and then the epiphany of I like photography because you were somehow, kind of constrained into doing it, and now you're this awesome artist who's traveling the world. That's a script, Renee. You need to write that.
I don't know.
You need to write that. That is a script, or at least create a series of images that illustrate that process. From the Renee before to the Renee of today. That would be awesome. I'd buy that.
The Renee before was very angry and very lost. Art has really kind of saved my life in a lot of ways. So. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, hey, thank you for coming on the show, man. It's been we've been trying to schedule this for a while. I'm so glad we finally got a chance to do this. It's been amazing to chat with you again. I'm humbled by looking at your work. It's just crazy, and especially considering that this is all self-taught, and this rivals everything, so it's good stuff. So congratulations on the body of work. Keep creating. We'll keep watching and seeing what you're up to. And where should folks go to connect with you online? Would you like them to visit your 500 Pics page or Twitter or what?
Yeah, Twitter is like a ghost town. I post there often, but my Twitter is lonely, so please go follow the Twitter page.
And that's Renee Robyn Photo with a Y.com, or at Twitter, just Renee Robyn Photo, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's Instagram, which is at Renee Robyn Photography. There's my Facebook page, which is really prolific. It is a little bit vulgar, so if vulgarity offends you, maybe avoid Facebook.
Vulgar? What do you mean? You can't describe your work as vulgar. You mean it's just, you know?
My pages are vulgar, though.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm very fond of the F word.
Ah, the vernacular. There you go.
Yeah,
Cool.
the vernacular. Yeah.
That makes me want to go there even more. So that's.
So then there's the Tone Down Google Plus page where I'm like all polite. I akin my Google Plus page to, like, you know, the Renee that goes to church.
Nice. So the angel Renee and the devil Renee is on Facebook. Got it.
Yeah, it's facebook.com/Renee Robyn Photography. Honestly, you can Google. There's like images and crap all over the place.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to suggest. Just Google Renee, Renee, Robyn, Robyn, and just enjoy the search results. Right?
Yeah, well, if you search just Renee Robyn, you're going to catch a lot of my modeling stuff. So be ready for that. Because it's been 16 years now. I still model a little bit. Not as much, of course, in the last year and a half, but I still book the occasional job every now and then, which is odd.
So if they want to see Renee Robyn, the model, just Google Renee Robyn. If they want to see your photographs, Renee Robyn Photography, and they'll see the other side of you. Yeah,
that does happen. I've Googled myself before, and the photography does show up, but yeah, the modeling stuff still is floating around the internet. So, yeah. Other than that, trying to think if I have anything cool coming up. I'm hoping to do some work with a couple of video game companies here, but we'll see if that all pans out.
That is so cool. We'll have to check in. I'm going to check in again with you. We'll touch base at Photo Plus for sure, but I want to check in with you again just on TWiP just to see where things have progressed to, because it seems like you're on a rocket ride right now.
I don't know. It's just a lot of not sleeping very much. You know, things sound like they're really exciting, but honestly, I sit in front of this computer a lot.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
don't we all?
Yeah, in weird places with bad Wi-Fi. So you know, it's you know, a lot of people kind of put on the rose-colored glasses when they look at things, and you know, there's exciting moments. That's like 2% of the time.
That's right. Yeah. Perception is not always reality. That's for sure.
It's
cool.
So true. But thank you so much for having me on. I guess we'll see how everything goes here. I've never done a Google Plus Hangout before. I'm glad nothing's crashed.
No, it's been fine. It's been great. You got people watching live, by the way, so say hello to your fans. They're watching you.
What's up, guys? I didn't know if this was going to be live or not. Otherwise, I would have thrown it up on the fan page and stuff. But is this recorded, though, hey? Yeah,
no, this is great. Yeah, so I'll give you the link, and you can share it afterwards.
Awesome.
All right. Well, cool, Renee. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're really great. Thank you so much. Toodles, guys.
Bye. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that interview. And if you're looking for ways to get excited and inspired about your photography, we've put together some really cool resources for you to download and check out. And you can find those over at thisweekinphoto.com/inspiration. These resources will help you sort of get a kick in the pants to get out there and shoot and kind of understand what it is you should be shooting or what it is you want to shoot when you go outside and you pull that camera out. Once again, that's at thisweekinphoto.com/inspiration.